Steve. I'm sorry, Steve.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, you can start.
Thanks, Brent. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Boardwalk and Beach Committee. It's 12:58, and let's start out with roll call. This is a virtual meeting, so everybody is online as is permitted by number 94, Title 29 of the Delaware Code. I'm going to start with Brian Hancock.
Here.
Frank Cole. I know you're here, Frank.
Jay, I registered to speak as a citizen. I'm abstaining from being here as a committee member because of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, and that's fine, Frank. You're here in attendance, and you're recusing yourself from any vote, and I understand that, and that's fine. Jimmy Horty
here.
Steve Kirshen's on his phone.
Here.
Patricia Davis
Here.
Honey Fisher
Here.
and Howard's here. And
Here.
the chairman, I'm Jay Legree, the chairman. And who did I miss? Anybody did I miss?
Craig is here.
Oh, sure. There you are, right in the middle, Craig. And we had 3 people who were registered to speak from the public. And I know that Rick DiLiberto's here, and I think that Mary Teresa is probably on her way. Are you here yet, Mary? She's on her way, and we'll go forward from there. Has everyone had a chance to scan the minutes of the last meeting on the 25th of January?
Yes.
Yes.
Do I hear corrections?
Yeah, I think under approval of minutes, Jay, you've got the January 25th date listed, and it should be the prior meeting, shouldn't it?
No, January 25 was our last meeting. And I think the meeting before that was November, and we okayed that in January, I think, Patricia. Anyway, those are accurate minutes of the January 25th meeting, and we'll go from there, and I'll try to find the other minutes, and we'll get them next time if we don't have them. How's that sound?
Well, so we're approving today the January 25th meeting, correct?
That's correct.
But you have under approval of minutes that the January 25th minutes were approved already.
No,
So
you mean on number 3 on the agenda?
On the minutes, look at your minutes. And under the minutes, under approval of minutes, you have that we already approved the January 25th minutes, and we didn't. We're doing it now.
What do I have down at the bottom? I don't have the minutes in front of me.
Oh, okay. I'll send it to you in an email.
Okay.
It just needs a little revision.
Next meeting, we'll approve 2 sets of minutes. I think we're square, though.
Okay.
We'll go forward. This is not critical. And I want to go as fast as I can. The correspondence, all but one that we've received is in your packet. So you've had a chance to read all of those. We got one yesterday or maybe the day before, and I'll read it when we start talking about bicycles on the boardwalk. But I'd like to start with Rick DiLiberto, who is I'll let him introduce himself and hear what he has to say. Rick, can you hear me? Are you ready to go?
I can. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for making time to allow me to speak. It's Richard DiLiberto, and my name is spelled DILiberto, and I come to you today in my official capacity as chairman of the Delaware Commission on Italian Heritage and Culture, which is a state commission created by the Delaware General Assembly via a statute, and it falls under the auspices of the Secretary of State's office. I am appointed by Governor John Carney to serve as chairman of the commission. We have 9 commissioners statewide. 3 are appointed by the governor, one of whom is the chairman. 3 are appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Schwarzkopf, and 3 are appointed by the President pro tempore of the Senate, previously Senator McBride, currently Senator David Sicola. We have a long and a mutually respectful relationship with our friends at the City of Rehoboth, and we've worked together on several projects to benefit the community, including the Garden of the Navigators and the Verrazzano Monument on Olive Avenue at the Boardwalk. We have over the years hosted large groups of Italian dignitaries and tourists to visit our beautiful city of Rehoboth. And we have a sister city relationship between Rehoboth and Greve, Greve, in Chianti, which is a city near Florence, Italy. This is the city where Giovanni da Verrazzano was born, and Verrazzano, of course, was the first European navigator to navigate the east coast of the United States, including Rehoboth Beach, in 1524. So years ago, we erected a beautiful monument called the Verrazano Monument at Olive Avenue in the Boardwalk, and the state paid for the monument. We were in an agreement with the city of Rehoboth to erect it on that land. And under the monument are actual pieces of stone from Giovanni da Verrazzano's castle in Italy, which we physically brought back to the United States and have them underneath the monument. We had a large group of dignitaries there to dedicate the monument. It's one of the most visited monuments in the state of Delaware, according to the Delaware Public Archives, with well over 1 million visitors a year. And it's listed as a historic site of interest in several travel and history sources, and it brings many numerous international and national visitors to Rehoboth. We have 2 Sussex County members who were planning on being here. One is Nicholas Caggiano, who's the proprietor of Nicola Pizza, Nick Sr., and Maria Teresa Morrison, who's also a Rehoboth Beach citizen, both members of our commission. Unfortunately, our Sussex County members, including Maria Teresa Morrison, have recently received numerous concerns from citizens regarding the lack of maintenance of the grounds surrounding the Verrazzano Monument on the Boardwalk and Olive Avenue. And you may be aware that for many years we had beautiful flowers and gardening around the monument, but recently it's fallen into disrepair and is in an unkempt condition. So we are concerned that it's overgrown, unkempt, and unsightly. I wanted to bring it to your attention and respectfully ask that it be maintained in a more fitting capacity so that people could continue to enjoy it and it continues to be held in the stature that it deserves. And that's the conclusion of my comments, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for your time.
Does any of the committee members have any questions for Mr. De Liberto before we listen to Marie Teresa, or shall we let her speak also and then ask questions of after that? Let's Marie Teresa, are you online? I see where you signed in, so I'll bet you're trying to contact us.
She's on mute, Jay.
Oh, she'd have to push *6 on her phone to unmute.
Oh, thanks a lot. Can you hear that, Maria?
She's connected with the computer.
Are we good to go?
No, she's still on mute. I see her name.
It's on her end.
But it still says she's muted.
Can you unmute her, Brant?
No.
She's unmuted right now.
Yeah, she should be good now.
Can you hear me, Mary Teresa?
Yeah, we hear nothing.
No. We can't hear you, Mary Teresa.
Well, in the interest of brevity, Mr. Chairman, it's Rick DiLiberto again. I do have authority to communicate to the committee on behalf of Mary Teresa Morrison and Mr. Nick Caggiano Sr. that they join in my remarks. They acquiesce in our request, as does the entire 9-member Delaware Italian Commission from Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex County.
Jay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Who has been maintaining the site all these years? Why is it in disrepair now?
The city of Rehoboth has been maintaining the site for all these years. And the second part of your question is, I don't know the answer. When we had a group coming in last summer, it was cleaned up a little bit, but then we were back to square one again. And we contacted His Honor, the mayor's office, as well as the city manager, and we were advised that they would take care of it.
And that was before, when was that? When did you contact them? I remember speaking with Mary Teresa, and she said that that she had also been talking to them, and I'm wondering when this summer when I walked by, it looked like it was unkempt. The beach grass was overgrowing it. And
the letter that I sent to Mayor Mills and Ms. Lynn was September 30th, 2021.
Okay. And the answer you got was that they would take care of it.
Right. And then there was some improvement right after that. We particularly wrote at that time because it was Italian Heritage Month coming up in October, and we anticipated a lot of people coming through, and we thought it would be embarrassing, frankly, to have it in the condition it was.
Go ahead, Howard. Ask.
Jay, just for clarification, this is on city land, is that correct?
That's correct. It's on the west side of the boardwalk in that property that's at the end of the street, end of Olive Street, and it is indeed on city property. The area around there looks as if it's has a lot of beach grass, and there's some yucca there, and I think there's some goldenrod maybe in the summertime. But the photograph that I sent out to everybody, I don't know when it was taken, but at one time it looked very nice. And
yes, it did.
And I was hoping this is the 500th year anniversary of Verrazzano's voyage up the coast of the United States. It's this is going to be a big year, and I really would hope that it could look really good. Did everybody see the email that I sent out to Liz and that I received back from her? I'm not sure there's a lot of help there. I don't know whether we can. I'd really like to see that monument really looking pretty. And go ahead, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jay. I guess the question that I have is, do we have, the time that the picture that you sent out to us, I agree with you, it looked very beautiful, and, we all walk by it all the time, and I think we ought to have, looking as nice as possible with the amount of traffic that it gets. And I've seen a lot of people stop and read and, look at the monument. Do we have, or could we get almost like a landscaping plan for that? So, I think that where the question may have come up is if it looked overgrown, if the city came in and just cut back the grass and things like that. But I mean, I think going forward, it might be in all of our best interest just to come up with a landscaping plan so we know exactly what should be going in there and a schedule on having it maintained so it does not go into disarray.
Yeah, I hear what you say. If you remember the email that I sent to Liz, I asked that we might have someone who would be expert in dune landscaping or along those lines to maybe to give us some help or something.
Agreed.
And I think that we could go to Rehoboth and Bloom and talk to those people, and I'll bet you we could find a volunteer who'd be thrilled to take, or some volunteers who would be thrilled to take care of this, of the Verrazzano Monument.
That was my next suggestion, actually. So you're a step ahead of me as usual, Jay.
Anyway, as you recall, the photograph that I sent out yesterday, which I got from Marie Teresa, it's primarily just some mulch around the periphery of the monument, and then some just ordinary flowers, pansies, or whatever those were that were on each side. And that would be great. And I can't identify what the background plants were, but they were very attractive. And if you recall from Liz's email, she believes that the wild and natural is very aesthetic, and that's true. However, this is a really important monument for our town, and I think we should have some special effort there. And I suspect that we could get some volunteers from the Rehoboth and Bloom. Now, she said that she wasn't aware of any landscapers who were competent, but I went online and I found something called the Dune Manual. It's 70 pages, and the last 40 of those pages concern landscaping, dunes, and beachfronts. So there are just tons of suggested plants, and they even talk about the anatomy of beach dunes, what to plant at what location, and how those affect the plants around them, and just a lot of super good information. I could even go with this, but one of the things that this manual says is that American beach grass, which is I think what's planted there, is probably not good for the back dunes, which is across the boardwalk, which is even further back than what they ordinarily call back dunes. So we're probably not transgressing any environmental dictums by making that look pretty like it used to look. So I think that's one thing we might think about doing is go ahead, Brian.
Rick, I've got a question more out of interest and specifically for Rick. When the monument and the organizers and the city agreed to place the monument, was there no form of contract or agreement that mentioned as to who should maintain? Because we're talking not only of landscaping, but we're talking about the monument itself. Who's responsible for the upkeep of the monument?
The city of Rehoboth is responsible for maintaining the area around the monument. The state of Delaware owns the monument itself. So if, for example, it would be damaged by lightning, let's say, God forbid, the state still owns the monument and would be responsible to repair it or maintain it. But it's on the land of the city, and the land is maintained and beautified by the city.
And it specifically says that.
Yes, that was the agreement. That was the agreement that we had when we provided the city the monument. And there was a little bit of a debate going back and forth about where this should go. One of the other alternatives was over at the Lewis Ferry Terminal. The city of Rehoboth was interested in having it on the boardwalk. We did donate some of the stones to the Lewis Historical Society, and they appear in the backyard of the Cannonball House. So we tried to spread around the historical donations and the significance of Verrazzano. And I think the monument was actually erected in 2008. So it's been there, 14 years or so. And we really haven't had a problem before until, recently, until this year.
Yeah. So the city has the obligation to maintain it. So
Yeah.
That's a clarification that we do need.
Yes.
I think Liz has been maintaining it. Our city arborist has been maintaining it or having it maintained. I think our question is, to what degree has it been maintained? And Maria Teresa, can you hear me? Are you able to speak yet? Well, we'll try to bring her, and I also wanted to listen to Rosemary Patton, who's a volunteer at the VIA. She has been leading tours along the boardwalk, and the VIA does, and around the city. And I think she may have been the one who brought it up to Maria Teresa originally, that the monument just looked shabby. So I'll try to get in more information from her down the line. But
Go ahead.
what is there? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Howard.
Jay, I just wanted to support your idea, and it was also seconded by Jimmy, that I think Rehoboth and Bloom does such a wonderful job around the city, and I think they're the natural people to both plan and maintain the landscape around it. They maintain floral displays all over town. As they're going around town doing that, it would be an easy stop for them. And rather than, sort of trying to designate a particular city resource with staff and, all of that. I mean, I know we do a lot of cleanup on the beach and the boardwalk, but they're really not florists or landscapers. But I think Rehoboth and Bloom, my guess would be, if we talk to them, they'd be willing and probably the most capable people to maintain this. And I think it's a great idea to make sure it really looks great for the 500th anniversary.
I think that's a super idea. I might have even heard that there's someone on there had already volunteered. So that possibility might be valid. Does anyone
Mr. Chairman,
have
if I may,
excuse me, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick DiLiberto again.
Okay.
If I may, I would also draw the committee's attention to the Garden of the Navigators, which is up near Bad Hair Day. If you go all the way up Olive Avenue, it used to be an empty lot with, trash and garbage. And we actually donated the gazebo there and a beautiful area where we have benches and flowers, et cetera, which now is an area where people go and get wedding pictures taken and come from out of town and visit and walk there. So that's a second piece of property that the city has maintained, that the commission gave instrumentalities to the city to maintain in honor of Americo Vespucci, which America is named after, a great Italian citizen, and Giovanni de Verrazzano. So it's called the Garden of the Navigators because it recognizes both of these historical figures. But that's maintained very well and very beautifully. So somebody's doing it for the city up there, and I anticipate rather than recreating the wheel, we could just find out who's doing that and have that same group take care of the Verrazzano Monument on the boardwalk, which is seen by a whole lot more people, because a lot more people are walking the boardwalk than they are up Olive Avenue near the Garden of the Navigators.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll take this to the commissioners and with our suggestions and see what they think and see where we go from here. And I suspect it's going to be possible to start making this more beautiful. And I think we can do it. I think we can do it down the line.
Well, we appreciate it. We've always had a great symbiotic relationship with the city. I'm not too sure what's happened within the past year or so, but we're not here to complain. We're just here to work in concert with you for the benefits of all the citizens of Rehoboth, of the state of Delaware, and in fact, national and international visitors that get a great impression of our city and our state when they visit this monument.
I think we can go forward. I think we'll probably get something done, and I sure want to do it before we have the celebration of the 500 years of Verrazzano. Verrazzano explored the Delaware Bay. He went all as far north as he could, and he came back down, and he said that he had tied up here for a period of days, and I'll bet you it was right out here in front of Rehoboth Beach, because after he left here, he went up north up the Jersey coast.
Correct. It was very close. It was either here or it was in Ocean City, Maryland. And if you go down to Ocean City, Maryland, and you go down to Assateague Island, you'll cross a small Verrazano bridge. They named after Verrazzano. And of course, you may be familiar with the Verrazano Bridge in New York, which is a massive bridge named in his honor. So he's a very important historical figure.
He sure is.
He called Rehoboth Arcadia, which loosely translated means the Garden of Eden. Yeah. And according to his ship's logs, he was very impressed with the beauty of our area back in 1524.
That's very true, and we have to keep him in our life, and maintaining that monument is a big part of it. And we're glad that you brought this to our attention. And we're glad to go forward. And if we need more firepower, we'll get you back in.
Okay. It's so nice of you to host me and give me the opportunity to speak with all of you today. And I'm look forward to seeing you all soon in person.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I'm sure Maria Teresa is going to stay in contact with you, as will I. So we'll keep you posted. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Goodbye.
Maria Teresa is still on, but she just can't get audio going. Does anybody have any more suggestions before we go on to the next topic, which is discussing the boardwalk safety during the summer? I'm hoping that Chief's here. So Chief, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, there you are.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to brief us on boardwalk safety? And as I was rereading your last, I think you talked to us on 12 October, and we talked a little bit at that time about bicycle safety, but tell us what we need to know about bike safety on the boardwalk.
Okay, thank you. A lot of it is, I hate to break it down, but just to simplify it, but it's just common sense and working together in harmony. That's easier said than done between the massive amount of people that come up to the boardwalk and visit that each and every day throughout the year, basically, but definitely heighten up in the summertime. As you guys already know, bicycles on the boardwalk is limited between May 15th to September 15th to only in the morning from daybreak to 10 a.m. and all. And, I've heard complaints for many years is too crowded. Bicyclists should maybe not be allowed at all, or should we reduce the times? But with that being said, and looking at bicycle accidents or crashes or whatever you want to call it, is not always the bicycles at fault. I mean, there's a lot of people walking with headphones on, earbuds, and they don't hear the bicycles coming up between them. Maybe the pedestrians are walking with families 4 or 5 wide, so that creates an issue at times and a conflict. There has been some crashes up there on bicycles, but very few, and usually it's rider error trying to go too fast. As the boardwalk narrows, we see more of the there's really not a collision, but more things go wrong when the boardwalk narrows, and all because you do have the conflict between pedestrians as well as the bicyclists if they're going too fast. I know a few years ago, I know Frank Cole was on here. We talked about having speed limits on the boardwalk. Even though it's very difficult to enforce that as far as to see how fast they are going. But overall, it's just the amount of people. I don't want to come across saying it's a bicycle issue that we're hearing about. I did have the officers last year and last few years to be more cognizant of it. You see bicyclists traveling to high rate of speed to make sure that's enforced, that we try to slow them down, try to educate them and give them other areas that they can go to get some true exercise on a bicycle and all that. I know the bike shops do the same thing, working with us to help them to get that message out. So, you know, I get complaints about series saying they're too wide, too big to be on the boardwalk. Again, that's questionable. I haven't really seen accidents that I can say are from the series or whatever. Usually the ones that we see, the issues or whatever, is going too fast and all that. So it is they have to work in harmony up there. It's only getting worse with the crowds in the morning. I will say some years back, we talked about this. We discussed it, cutting hours back, or if it needed to go away from previous commissioners. It did not go well. A lot of people wrote in and voiced their opinion, you know, that they've done this all their life or whatever. It's memories that they're building up that they remember, recall, as well as with their family members as they get older and with the young ones. And also it's a bonding moment, it's memories, and we definitely, I don't think, want to take that away. So I guess where I'm coming from is there an issue up there? Yes, it's overcrowded. It will continue to, we're very popular here in Rehoboth Beach, so it's only going to get worse, but I'm not sure exactly what should be done. You can't really penalize the bicyclists if they're not doing a lot of things wrong. It's just because of the amount of people. Also, I don't even know cutting the hours back would make a lot of difference. I really keep control of the cadets out there to make sure at 10 o'clock they're getting out the boardwalk. Again, the bike shops inform their renters that they come off at 10 o'clock. So a lot of them know. Of course, like everything else, sometimes people don't want to cooperate, but for the most part, they do, in fairness to them. So I guess I'll leave it open some questions. I'm not trying to be indifferent or not be able to make a decision and all, because I don't want to come across that way. But the reality is there is overcrowding up there, but there hasn't been significant enough crashes to sit there and say that one's at fault versus the other. Wherever way decisions we make, there's going to be a lot of negativity. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I hear that, Chief. Before I go on, I want to read one last letter that I didn't get on to it didn't arrive in time to get into our agenda. The other letters that are there, y'all have had a chance to read, and this letter is actually about like the rest. I'm writing to voice my opposition to the proposed changing of the bicycle hours on the boardwalk. We haven't proposed anything yet. I have lived in Rehoboth Beach all my life and cannot remember a time when bikes were not allowed on the boardwalk in the mornings until 10 a.m. As someone who is on the boardwalk on a daily basis, I can state with certainty that the situation there is no better or no worse than it has been in past years. I enjoy riding on the boardwalk in the summer with my nephews who are not comfortable riding on the street. I'm asking that you not take away this tradition. Signed by Bill Sfolas, who I think his family runs Gus and Gus. I'm not for sure, but someone who's certainly on the boardwalk, that's for sure. Does Chief, let me start out by asking you a question.
Yes, sir.
Carol Everhart said this summer is going to be busier than any summers past that were just booked up, and we have probably going to have 2 new hotels on the boardwalk. I'm sure we're going to have one that Alex and his dad, Papa John's, are going to build, and then I think we're going to have one over on Baltimore for sure. That's going to be totally renewed. and there's probably, is that going to appreciably add to the density on the boardwalk? Are we reaching the point where we need to get worried about it?
I mean, obviously, I think the more hotels close to the boardwalk, you're gonna bring the people in, but if the hotels were off outside of town as they are, people are gonna come up in town, they're gonna park and be up on the boardwalk anyway. So I don't know it's necessarily gonna create any more. Might just maybe more convenient, so they may be out there a little bit earlier or stay a little bit longer, because they'll basically be local right on top of the boardwalk, or they have to walk out their front door.
Yeah.
So I understand your point. We always need to be cognizant of it. I think this is a problem that we're always going to have. Where it's a issue because we have a great community, great beach and boardwalk that's well kept, and we're going to continue to do that. We want to do that, and so I think we're going to be a destination. So how do we make it safe? I'm not convinced it's taking the bicycles off the boardwalk, and definitely not allowing them at all. I think it is so iconic. I think the memories, as I mentioned before, and it's just the officers will be out there. They have to sit there, and we'll have to stress it again this year that about bicyclists, if they're going too fast, to educate them on that. Educate them if they have earbuds on, to make sure they can't ride with those on. And at the same time, with the pedestrians, make sure we inform them to be mindful around their surroundings, that there's bicyclists going up and down the boardwalk. And we've talked about in the past putting stripes down, have a bicycle lane. We really just don't have the footage to sit there and do that. And then what side, because people are going to make a turn or cross off if they want to get off on a side street. So it just really never was a good idea that we could come up with to make sure that it would work properly. And also, I think it's one of those things where I don't want to say we have to sit there and deal with. We can sit there and put sandwich boards, but I don't think that we want to do that either, about slow down, bicyclists on here. If we did something like that, I guess that could be something that the officers take up or take down, after 10 o'clock or before 10 o'clock or something. Again, you don't want to make it more crowded putting too much out there, but we could maybe put something to say, signage or something about slow speeds on the boardwalk and all that. But that would be my suggestion. Only I really don't see us doing away. I guess we could talk about to take the time back from 10 to 9. But I think it'd be difficult. It's not about being unpopular. We want to make sure it's safe. But at the same time, we don't have the crash data to sit there and say that we've had incidents up there. Have we had near misses? Absolutely. And who's at fault? Like I said, a lot of times it's just a sheer number of people up there at times. So sometimes it's going too fast on the bike. So again, I don't want to be wishy-washy here, but it's just trying to be fair to both sides and to sit there and just say that I think the biggest thing we can do as far as the police officers, the police cadets, is again, realizing it's an issue and making sure that they're aware of it and that they're educating the public as much as possible. And that may be through some sandwich boards that we take up and down, even though, again, I know that just crowds it up more too.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask Frank to speak here in a minute, but he had a couple of ideas last time when we talked about this. But and I have a feeling that some of the committee members probably have some more ideas and suggestions. Frank, can you hear me?
Yes, Jay.
Do you want to speak now, or you want us to talk about it a little bit more?
I can, and I'll be brief. The one thing that I saw in the emails that hasn't been mentioned up to this point is electric bikes. And if it pleases the committee, at the end under citizen comment, I could give a short synopsis of what the electric bike laws are currently and what the state's doing. But I would love the opportunity to speak just about what Chief Banks said and the overall issue of bikes on the boardwalk.
Go ahead and go if you want to.
Okay. In the October 12th meeting, Chief Banks said there were no reported injuries, and he's restated that again today. One of the biggest dangers that I see in chasing people off the boardwalk at 9 a.m. is that it'll force families onto First Street and King Charles if they're going north to south, which most people do. And those areas have been identified as a hot spot for cycling accidents, particularly on First Street. Along the lines of the no reported injuries, to my knowledge, there have never been any serious injuries up there, no life-threatening injuries. And I think that's worth noting. Usually with bikes going at slow speed, you get a skinned knee, maybe a broken arm here and there, but it's not like the risk associated when you're colliding with a car. If you're not wearing a helmet and you get into an accident involving a motor vehicle, there can be life-threatening injuries there and possible death. It could be fatal. I'd like to point out that there's some risk associated with cycling, just like any other activity, whether you're going to the beach, you're swimming in the ocean, you're going running on the boardwalk, which I slipped and fell in June and bruised the rib. Anything really. I mean, going to an amusement park can be potentially dangerous. So there's going to be some element of risk that the city has to be comfortable with when it comes to bikes on the boardwalk and other activities. Lastly, I would like to say that we do self-regulate. Anytime I've been doing bicycle rentals since 1988, and I've been doing them in Rehoboth since 1998. And over the years, you develop a sixth sense for maybe groups that you think might cause a problem. So the tried and true method is you maybe rent to them, admonish them to follow all the rules, and then you let them get a few hundred yards down the road and you go follow them. And our standard procedure is if some of our customers are acting up, getting crazy, going too fast, riding recklessly, we pull them over and we give them a gentle warning, but we do like to tell them that if they continue to carry on, their ride will be over, their rental will be terminated. So in years past, I've taken that upon myself. I occasionally task my employees with that, but that is something that I can do more regularly with my employees, directed towards my customers who are definitely on the boardwalk. That's pretty much it. If anyone would like, I could do the electric bikes, give you a quick rundown on those now, maybe talk a little bit about the Surreys, but that's pretty much what I wanted to get across.
Anybody have questions for Frank that we haven't covered yet?
I'd like to. I have a question about the Surreys. Isn't there a city ordinance that doesn't allow four-wheeled vehicles on the boardwalk?
No, I don't think it's defined under the city code. No. It was something that was, my recollection is something that the city commissioners agreed to in the early 90s. I think they've been in Rehoboth for about 30 years now. On the topic of the Surreys, my own feeling is that we typically rent them to either families with small children or to families that have handicap or elderly family members that can't ride. So they do have the effect of keeping everyone together. I think they take up less room in some cases than a family that's riding 2 abreast or 3 abreast. And I think they behave a little bit more predictably on the boardwalk. In 2020, incidentally, I'd like to point out, I didn't rent a single Surrey in 2020. And my reason for that was I didn't, like most businesses, I was strapped for staff and we give everyone who rides a Surrey specialized instructions, but also from a social distancing standpoint, I just didn't want to get into the whole thing of whether the people on the Surreys were family members, whether it was causing other people, pedestrians to bunch up together and they were unable to social distance. So I intentionally didn't rent a single Surrey in 2020. In 21, I recently sold approximately 30 of my old Surreys. just to give you an idea of how many we're talking about. In the old days, I used to have approximately 10 units, 10 Surreys at each of 3 locations. I've cut that number in half right now. I have approximately 5 or 6 at each of 3 locations. And I've also doubled my prices last year, which had the effect of we rented fewer overall units in 2022 because the price doubled from 2021. Or sorry, we doubled it in 2021 compared to the prices of 2019.
Frank, how many Surreys do you rent in a day?
It varies. Each of our Surreys will typically go out one time, if that. I mean, on certain days, we may have, a couple Surreys that go out twice, and then the ones towards the back of the shop, we don't rent at all. But overall, their popularity has waned significantly, mostly due to the fact that people now prefer to do the bike trails, the local bike trails.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, can I clarify something on the statute? The code begins by saying that no vehicle of any type or description shall be operated, maintained, or parked on the boardwalk, and then it makes exceptions. Motorized wheelchairs are an exception. Mm-hmm. And then it says bicycles, tricycles, and any other vehicle propelled only by human power may be operated or maintained on the boardwalk at any time during the calendar year, except from and including May 15th to September 15th, from daybreak to 10 a.m. So I think e-bikes are clearly prohibited already. And so that's a matter of enforcement. If we begin to see a lot more e-bikes, the chief's going to have his guys very busy enforcing the statute. But it seems to me that given that the only vehicles, with a very few exceptions, that can be on the boardwalk are those only by human power. So that would include the Surreys. They can be on because they're human powered, but it would not include e-bikes.
Yeah, and I think we strengthened that last year. I'd have to go back and look when we talked about motorized vehicles on the sidewalks. I think we said
you did, sir, with reference to some of the scooters with the big one wheel in the middle of them.
Yes. Right, exactly, and that's in a different section, I think.
Yes.
Yes. I have a problem with. Excuse me. Any more questions? I know that.
Well, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to throw out a couple of things, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Okay. First off, I know this is a very touchy subject, and I think there are some things that we can all agree upon. I don't know that anybody's actually come right out and said they want to ban bikes. I don't think anybody has said that. So I just want to throw that out there. And I also want to make clear that when we talk about bikes on the boardwalk or issues with bikes on the boardwalk, it shouldn't all go back on Frank, and it's not his customers. I don't mean to apply that either. So there are a lot of people who ride their bikes, who rent homes, who live there, and they're coming from all sorts of areas. So this is not a, Frank issue, or his business is not, it's not that they're not complying. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that. I do think that if we want to find some common ground, I do agree with the electric bikes. I've also seen, and I don't know what you call them, pardon me, but they're like, they're skateboards, but they're electric. I mean, they move, they are propelled somehow without kids, pushing them. And so I think they can go pretty quickly. And that's an issue that we might want to look at in terms of getting out to the public that we shouldn't be doing it. With regard to the one comment of Frank that I did want to, review, I don't think you have to wait until somebody falls down and cracks their skull open to then say, okay, we're going to change the boardwalk hours. I mean, children are being, and again, I'll go with my own experience. My niece and nephew were hit by a bike. They fell down. Were they okay? Yeah, sure they were. Did I report it? No, I did not. I would be willing to bet there are a lot of people who have incidents that don't even know where to report it. You just get back up and you start walking again. So I think that's kind of an important consideration. It's not just severe injury that when we talk about safety. We want to consider general safety when we're considering this type of motion or change. And also, the other thing you might want to think about, just food for thought, you might want to try it for 1 year. You might want to say, hey, we'll do it because we know the 2022 season is going to be busy, and perhaps we just modify the hours for the one season and see if it makes an impact, see what happens. And then if it doesn't, if there's no change or no perceivable resolution, then we go back to the hours. I think we're thinking about that for parking, are we not, Jay?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, the parking is going to be put in place for 1 year from September.
Yeah, and we talked about extending it for next year. This may just be a
Right.
1 year thing. I just don't know.
So, we're just trying new things as the city gets larger as tourism gets larger. It's not going to get less this year. It could be even larger. I think those are some of the issues we need to think about. So, thank you.
And Jay, could I respond to Patricia?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, first off, I would agree with you on the electric scooters. In fact, there was a fatality in West Ocean City last night involving one of the stand-up electric scooters. I do believe those are covered in the code. As far as your grandchild getting injured, sorry to hear about that. The big thing that I can see is speed on the boardwalk. And if you're going slow on the boardwalk and you're in the right gear, if a child runs out in front of you, you have enough time to stop. So, I have space on my North Boardwalk location for some signage. And I've been told by the city that if it's informational, it's treated a little differently than if I want to put up, a gigantic Atlantic Cycles sign. So I'd be willing at my own expense to have a sandwich board there with a simple message of maybe just slow down, and have it on the boardwalk when it's meaningful in the mornings until 10 a.m. But I think that would do a lot to get the message out that people should be traveling at slower speeds. I do appreciate your taking the time to tell me it's not about my business, it's about the safety. I would like to point out my landlord's on the board. I have a location that's directly on the boardwalk at 1 Virginia Avenue, and my landlords on the North Boardwalk are Rachel and B of Rehoboth Toy and Kite, and as probably many of you know, they managed to hold on to that property, but they're my landlords. And at this juncture, if you're thinking about changing it for this year, that would put an extreme hardship on me because that business model doesn't work at 9 a.m. and it might put a significant hardship on them because I'm their tenant, and they would have to scramble to get another tenant in there very quickly. And that's it. Thank you.
Frank, are you the only person that rents stories that come on the boardwalk, or do others?
I am. I rent them at Atlantic Cycles, North and South, and also at Bob's Bikes. There are, I would guesstimate, 3 or 4 private individuals around town that own Surreys privately, and you occasionally see them on the boardwalk.
Mm-hmm. I ride about 20 miles a day on my bike. I ride the trails, and weather permitting. And I got to tell you, the electric bikes scare me to death. I mean, folks pass me with electric bikes, so I'm glad, who shouldn't even be riding any bicycle. And I'm glad that you don't put electric bikes on the boardwalk. Patricia has a point. Do we have to wait until somebody gets hurt? On the other hand, we just don't know. My most dangerous part is when I hit the narrows at the south end. And unless you're going extremely slow, people will step in front of you. They just don't look. They just don't look. And if you're going 2 miles an hour, that's about the limit of it. Because I mean, when it gets crowded, and I might say that most of the people that I see on bikes who are going too fast are usually riding their own bike. They're rarely on a rental bike. I don't know why that is, but we have some folks that ride every day in the morning early that ride pretty fast. But
I would agree with you there, Commissioner. And I would also add that taking a look at the electric bikes would be a good first start. However, it's not as simple as you might imagine. There are 28 states right now that have a 3-tier system for classifying e-bikes. In fact, there's a bill in the state of Delaware that just passed the House that's going to do just that, classify e-bikes in 3 classes. The class system, it's based on the top motor assisted speed, how the motor is engaged, what the wattage of the motor is, and generally speaking, it can be broken down to the fact of whether it's a pedal assist or whether it's a throttle based electric bike. And I don't want to bore everyone here, but the most common ones that you're probably seeing out there are class 2. That's what everyone wants these days. Class 2 are throttle based. They may also have a pedal assist. And to make things even more complicated, on a lot of models, the throttle can be disabled so that it's in compliance, where, say, a class 1 bike is allowed, you can turn a class 2 bike into a class 1. But you know, the class 1 are pedal assist bikes. They will only give you an electrical assist if you're pedaling. The assistance stops at 20 miles an hour. The level of assist can be variable. They're extremely popular with people who want to go on long distance bike rides, but think, I might run out of steam, I might need a little help, my area's hilly, etc. The class 2 are popular with 2 kinds of people. The class 2 is the useful way to think of those is they're like electric mopeds. You know, they're throttle based. They're also going to do 20 miles an hour. There are people, you'll see them out on Route 1 now, people who don't have cars who are using these class 2 throttle based e-bikes as their sole means of transportation. But there are also a subset of people that are using them irresponsibly. Like most electric vehicles, they'll go from 0 to top speed in a very short period of time. You can go a lot faster in a lot of cases than what the people would be capable of if they were pedaling. And I think it's going to be tough from an enforcement standpoint when the city and later the state starts to enforce these e-bike regulations. Because as you probably know, motorized vehicles are not permitted on our local bike trails. And thus far, the state of Delaware has chosen not to regulate e-bikes, which are becoming more and more popular every year.
I thought that Chief, you might be able to correct me. I thought that law was allowing the local jurisdiction to make that decision. Am I wrong? I thought it was a locally enforced, locally decided issue. Chief, do you have anything to add to that?
The short answer is I believe the municipalities could try to enforce that, but it does come down to enforcement. And Frank said it very well. Well, I mean, if it's an assist at times or whatever, and people, if they're utilizing it wrong and they're going 20 miles an hour, by the time a police officer gets there, they've already passed them. You can't step in front of them. And the other ones are just using it. It may be somewhat electric or whatever, but they're not using it. They're using just the foot pedal. So, you know, no officer's really going to sit there and say no to them or whatever. Just because they could use it doesn't mean they are, and they can be. And quite honestly, on a boardwalk, I would sit there and say that a lot of times they're not being used. Yes, on the bike trails, when I'm out on the trails, they're zipping way, a lot of them are way too fast. But yes, it does happen on our boardwalk. And I guess to answer your question, I think we could put something in our ordinance, but I think it's already covered about the motorized ones anyway. So I think it's there. I think it's just seeing somebody using it inappropriately to try to reach out and do some type of enforcement. So I think it's already there by the letter of the law.
So Jay, Chief, is it correct that the electric bikes, electric scooters, electric skateboards are not allowed on the boardwalk today? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct. And I'll go back and go through that. It is correct. I'll go back and go through that and see if we need to strengthen it up or just see which way we go.
Yeah.
Well, we could at least strengthen the language online for visitors, because I am not aware of that when I go online and read it. So
yeah, I think we could do something with education, but yes, I do think the law is there for us to enforce.
Okay.
And even the manual skateboards, in my understanding, they're not allowed on the boardwalk either. Correct. Okay.
Correct.
But I don't remember seeing that written anywhere.
We get it is because it says motorized, and this past year, as Commissioner Legree was talking about, that's something I went back and I saw we were having more issues this past year with the skateboards or the boards with just the one big wheel in the middle. And also we did go recently this past year and made sure that was specified in our ordinance.
Yeah, it does say on the signage on the boardwalk, it says, because I took a picture of it, it says rollerblades. And when did we ever see rollerblades these days? Rollerblades, skates, and scooters are not permitted from May 15th to September 15th. So it really doesn't pinpoint what we're talking about. And maybe that's something, some other signage or additional language could be added. But certainly on the website, we could make it stronger.
Actually, we are talking about the summer season with bikes and Surreys and electric bikes and everything, although I think it's all year long with motorized vehicles. But go ahead, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jay. I think, just listening to what everybody said, I don't ride my bike as much as you do, Jay, but I'm on the boardwalk usually every morning. And just to tie into, what a lot of people have said, I've really looked since we've been discussing this over the past couple of years with the crowdedness and everything else. And I've been riding my bike on the boardwalk since I was a little kid. And I think has it gotten a little bit more crowded? Yes, but there were always a lot of the obstacles and the people and things like that. Majority of the reckless people, this is my opinion, are not people who are renting bikes. They're coming on their own bikes and they're, just riding along and things like that. I think with anything, as things change, I think it's more educating people. And I agree with what Patricia has said. And I think it could make, the committee, as well as, Chief Banks and all of his officers and the lifeguards and, everybody else's jobs a lot easier is, just tying into what Patricia just said, when we look online. And that's what a lot of people now, they don't look at signs. It's inevitable. But I think what a lot of people do, if they go onto the city's website and they do look at, here's when bikes are allowed. And if you, clearly said, these things are prohibited. And I think going in, another thing is, here's the fine, you can be ticketed. Here's the fine and things like that. Just to tie in, I think to change anything on the boardwalk, I think it's unfair, just because we've all been doing it. I know it's unfortunate that it's gotten, more crowded, but I think by just educating a lot of people, having a lot of things on the different apps, whether it's, on Frank's, all the rentals companies that he has, and, you're just instructing a lot of people. And, just by saying, what are you looking to do? Are you looking for a long bike ride? You can go over to the breakwater trails. Are you, like Jay Legree and, you're an avid bike rider and, you do multiple miles and things like that. I think it's really, we need to re-educate people that there are other options within the city of Rehoboth and on the outskirts down by, the Breakwater Trail and where would you like to go and things like that. The people who live here and have their own bikes and everything, they know what they want to do, no matter what. But I think a lot of the tourists that are coming in, we're going to have to educate not only the tourists, but the residents too. I think it's just something that, with change and, as popular as Rehoboth's becoming, as big as the area has grown, I know I see a lot of people, riding out by Rehoboth Beach Country Club, all the developments out there. There's a lot more people on the highways, out on Route 1 and just all over the place. And I think it's just, we're all, not just the city of Rehoboth, but, Sussex County and the state, they're going to have to come up with, new regulations, just as Frank said, with the new electric bikes and, things like that. And I think, fortunately or unfortunately, that's a situation that, this committee finds, we have to keep our boardwalk safe. And, we need to educate, the people who are going on the boardwalk, riding their bikes and other things. I mean, I wouldn't want to take away, the experience of, being able to ride your bike on the boardwalk, for a little child or anything else.
So I got no change, plus let's do some education from Jimmy. I got try an hour for a year and see what happens from Patricia. Chad, what are your thoughts? Am I muted?
No, you said Chad. You mean Craig?
Oh, Craig. I'm sorry, Craig. You're muted. Yeah. Craig, you're muted. What are your thoughts? You got to unmute.
You're muted, Craig. Can't hear you, Craig.
Honey, while Craig's getting unmuted, tell me what your thoughts are.
I'm not sure that cutting it back for an hour is going to help. I mean, if you want to do that, I'd be willing to try it. But I think somehow we've got to educate people not to ride so fast and not to walk 4 or 6 abreast on the boardwalk. That just really gums it up. Or to ride 2 or 3 abreast.
Gotcha.
And I don't know how you do that. A sandwich board sounds like a great idea, but how many of those can you put out? The people are just oblivious. They're just, they don't pay attention. I mean, they come walking right at me. Here I am, a grandmother walking down the boardwalk, and I have to step out of their way. I just don't get it.
Brian, what are your thoughts? You're muted. You're muted, Brian. Now you go.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody has said, and it's not the surreys, it's not the rental bikes, and you all know how close I am to the boardwalk.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
So I see all the bikes all the time, all the day. The biggest issue are these people that forget that it's a boardwalk. They think it's a trailway.
Yeah.
And you get these people in spandex and the racing bikes and the road bikes, and they tear up and down the boardwalk. Then you get the local kids, they come down. I've seen as many as 10, 15, 20 all come down in a group and sail down the boardwalk. So it's nothing to do with Frank's business, and even the times that people are allowed on the boardwalk. It's a mentality of some people, unfortunately, and that's only going to be corrected by education and more so enforcement. You got to stand in front of these people and let them know that they're doing wrong. Otherwise, they're going to continue to do it.
Thanks, Brian.
Chief Banks, do you ever hand out fines to people who are reckless on bikes? Is that something the city does?
We have. It is few. Usually we go to education like we do with like tents or anything else on the beach and boardwalk. Our first thing is try to educate them and all. But if we, for example, our biggest tickets that we give out are, we ask them to get off the boardwalk. They agree, or I'll get off at the next exit or something, and they keep going, and then the next day we see them again, we'll go ahead and give them a citation and all. So usually it's being defined, and that's usually the ticket for not getting off the boardwalk by 10 o'clock. But we have done some reckless ones too. Again, that's usually it's after a couple warnings, or at least one warning. And somebody's doing wheel stands and things like that, some kids. The first thing is we'll reach out to the parents and try to tell them if they're locals and we know who they are. If not, we usually just tell them to stop, and they do. The officers are never going to chase a bicyclist down, or even a skateboarder, for example. If they get off if we're trying to get them off the boardwalk and we're going to quit, and try to stop them, they look back and they take off and get off the boardwalk. Well, we've accomplished what we wanted them to do anyway. So we're never going to just chase after them. And somebody's going to get hurt. We're going to look silly in the process. So it goes back to education. I do want to sit there and say that, like I said, the bike shop's doing an excellent job with that. The officers, every year something changes, we make sure we do that. We do put information on the website, but I can work with Lynn and communications for the city and see if we can't make that better. Chamber of Commerce puts things out. I know last year, Steve and his group out of Country Club Estates put a bike trail map together and put little items in there about the boardwalk, what you can and cannot do on there. So I think we are trying to educate the public more, but yes, there's always more that we can do.
Thanks, Chief. Does anybody, it's time for us to get on down the road. What is the date of our March? It must be the 29th of March is our next meeting. That's the last Tuesday in March. So let's put that down, and I'll tell you different if it's taken up. I'll take a check. And does anybody have any earth-shaking announcements or anything? Chief, are you good to go with the information that we've got?
Yes, and I'll make sure we're working on PowerPoints right now for our seasonal cadet training, and we're going to do a whole issue just on bike regulations up on the boardwalk, as well as the beach items. This year, every year we add to that, so that'd be a big thing that we educate about electric bikes and about people just going too fast. Try to make sure we educate them. And I will work with the lifeguards too, the compliance officer, and he's really good too. We do have a compliance officer out there a few days a week for the beach lifeguards, and he does a nice job too, trying to educate the people on bicycles or pedestrians too. Again, I don't want to make it that it's just one-sided, or if he sees skateboarders, he'll go ahead and educate them and have them get off the boardwalk right away.
Thanks, Chief. And I think I have enough information to make a report to the Board of Commissioners. And honey, you have one last thing.
Just one comment. The last Tuesday of March is the 29th.
Yes.
Not the 22nd. So I thought you said 22nd. I'm sorry.
I think the last Tuesday, it is the 29th. And
29th.
Let's shoot for the 29th. And I'll get the minutes out, and we'll have 2 sets of minutes on the 29th. It'll be fun.
Get a lot done.
Announcements, I adjourn this meeting, and thanks everybody for coming, and see you on the 29th.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks. Good meeting, Jay.
Yeah, thank you.